It's a big night in Paris because Chinese President Xi Jinping is in town. He last visited Europe in 2019, before the Wuhan virus pandemic, so he's back after a gap of 5 years. And what's on the agenda? Well, this year marks 60 years of diplomatic ties between France and China, so it is pretty symbolic. But beyond that, it's trade and Ukraine. These are the two key issues. Xi landed this morning in the French capital. There was a bit of rain around, but he got a warm welcome from the French Prime Minister. Take a look. It wasn't all good though. Some Tibetan activists planned a protest against Xi Jinping as his motorcade passed by. They unveiled a Tibetan flag. So quite an eventful ride, but eventually Xi Jinping reached the Elysee Palace. He was welcomed by French President Emmanuel Macron. Both men shook hands, posed for pictures and headed inside. No major display of warmth, no bear hugs, more of a business-like attitude, which also sums up this trip. Xi Jinping is visiting Europe after a long time, yet he is not stopping at major European capitals. No Berlin, no Brussels, no Rome, just France, Serbia and Hungary. It tells you what his priorities are. Serbia and Hungary are pro-Russian countries, so that's friendly turf for Xi. And France is charting its own course. Macron recently said Europe cannot become America's vassal. So Xi has picked his destinations carefully. Which brings us to the agenda. What are both leaders hoping to achieve here? First, look at Macron. Trade and Ukraine are his top priorities. France is complaining about cheap Chinese electric vehicles. China is complaining about cheap French liquor. Both are sensitive industries. Any tariff or penalty could lead to a trade war. President Macron is worried about that. The trade between France and China is $79 billion, so he does not want to rock the boat.
We are at a turning point in our history, which requires us to face and overcome the structural difficulties which involve economic trade, where the idea of decoupling would be harmful, and we have a responsibility to ensure a level playing field for all.
So Macron doesn't want decoupling. He wants a level playing field. The second issue is Ukraine. China is accused of supplying strategic items to Russia, like semiconductors, dual-use goods, and weapon components. Macron is hoping to change Xi Jinping's position. He wants China to stop helping Russia's war machine. But will Xi Jinping listen? He was positive on China-Europe cooperation, but silent on Ukraine.
The world today has entered a new period of turbulence and change. As two important forces in the world, China and Europe should adhere to their partnership positioning, dialogue and cooperation, deepen strategic communication, enhance mutual strategic trust, gather strategic consensus, carry out strategic cooperation, promote stable and healthy development of China-Europe relations.
Forget his statement. Xi's travel plans tell you his position. He will visit two pro-Russia countries next. He's slated to arrive in Serbia on Tuesday. Do you know what's special about it? On May 7th, in 1999, NATO bombed China's embassy in Belgrade. Tomorrow is the 25th anniversary of that incident, so Xi's message is quite clear. Do not expect climb downs on Ukraine. Then what is he hoping to achieve in Europe? Again, two things. One is to kickstart his economy. Trade between Europe and China is almost $800 billion. It is also stacked in China's favor, $800 billion. So Xi Jinping wants to continue that. He needs the EU market for his products. And secondly, to drive a wedge between Western allies. French President Macron is the perfect candidate for this. He wants Europe to step out of America's shadows, to follow its own policies, and that offers a window to Xi Jinping. But will either side get what they want? Macron is trying really hard. He's hosting a state banquet for the Chinese president, and tomorrow he's got a getaway planned. He will take Xi to the Pyrenees Mountains. Apparently, Macron used to visit this place as a boy, so he's hoping for a personal touch, a more intimate conversation. But honestly, success looks unlikely, mainly because of two reasons. One, the European Union is divided. Today, we saw Macron and Ursula von der Leyen in Paris, but no Olaf Scholz. Apparently, the German Chancellor was busy. He visited China last month and came back empty-handed, so this time he skipped the meeting. Same with Eastern Europe. In Hungary, Xi Jinping is expected to announce a new factory, a BYD plant to make electric vehicles. Do you see the problem here? The EU says Chinese EVs are a problem for them, yet an EU member will soon have a Chinese EV plant. So there is no united front. Secondly, neither side will make concessions. Last year, Macron appeared close to making one. He was in China for an official trip. And there, Macron talked about Taiwan. He said Europe must not get dragged into a confrontation over Taiwan. It was a major climb down. But that was in April last year. More than 1 year has passed. What did Emmanuel Macron get for that concession? Pretty much nothing. So chances are he will not make the same mistake again.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. South Africa goes to the polls on the 29th of May. I will track the election and bring you ground reports. Is it the end of the road for the African National Congress? And will former President Jacob Zuma stage a dramatic comeback? From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.